I was going to play a song for you guys. Let's see if I can get it. It might be. That's okay. We can do it. Okay. Remember this song? Okay, so I'll talk while it's playing. We'll get to the refrain. All right, so listen to it later today. We'll play it at the end too. But I did some research on that song, and John Lennon wrote it in 1967. And this was interesting because he wrote it for the Beatles to play at one of the first global TV productions with the intent of building unity and love across the world. It was called Our World. So in 1967. And then later, if you think about when was We Are the World? The 80s with Michael Jackson and all the greats. So they were copying the idea from the BBC of Our World and trying to resurrect unity and love again, which is just kind of cool to connect those things. But in 1967, over 400 million viewers watched it in 25 countries, and all reported that was their anthem for the summer of 1967. Isn't that cool? So it set records for the first global TV production. But I looked up what was happening in 1967, and I thought this was really interesting. A war between Israel and Egypt was happening in the Gaza Strip. Racial riots were occurring in Detroit, Newark, and Cincinnati. Remember those? I remember we lived in Cincinnati for 10 years. My husband grew up there, and I remember hearing about the stories of the riots in Cincinnati in 67. Also good things. The first successful heart transplant happened in the U.S. in 1967. Thurgood Marshall was the first Black Supreme Court justice named. And Aretha Franklin recorded Respect, R-E-S-P-C-T. So those epic songs both came out in 1967. I was going to ask you guys, what do you remember? Okay, your son was born in 1967. What else? My parents were married in 67. What else do you remember? Does anybody else know? What happened in that year for anybody else? Pickleball was discovered. Was it? That's so cool, Lisa. In Seattle. That's so cool.
What's that? Bainbridge.
No.
That's amazing.
Developers at home made out of plywood.
What a cool, okay, yeah.
When was
I don't know.
I was thinking that it
I think you might be right. 66 or 67?
I was young enough, I don't remember JFK.
68?
I think, yeah.
It was 68.
Right in there.
Okay, but I could be
Yeah,
wrong.
'cause I remember that funeral and all.
Yeah.
68.
Okay, 68. So think about and then just context that with today, right? And that there were good things and horrible things happening at the same time. And so just for our sweet little brains that get worried, remember that we have had seasons of unrest before, and that I have to trust there's an arc towards love. And so I just wanted to start with that because I thought that song came to mind as I was preparing for this. And then sent me down a little rabbit hole, as you know, I love to go down. But what made me then go to the song was looking at how many versions of love there are. And so the Greek philosophers in ancient Greece coined all these terms for us. And it's interesting because a lot of this was, so the teachings of Jesus had kind of just migrated to Greece, and then the philosophers were taking all this stuff and trying to make sense of it, right? So a lot of this you'll see kind of references in scripture, but the philosophers, their stance was love is too big to contain in one word. And they ended up with 8 words for different kinds of love. So Philadelphia, who beat us in the Super Bowl. But we can practice philia with brotherly love, right? Philadelphia is the city of brotherly love. So that is, you're my sister, you're my brother. We're on this planet at the same time, being human together. Let's love each other. Storge is a family kind of love, like a parent and a child. That's Storge love. So just think about all these different loves as we go through it and how you've experienced all of these. Pragma is a long-standing marriage partnership. That's where we get the word pragmatic, practical. Agape, unconditional. This is equal human rights. This is the love of God. This is, if you live with agape as the goal, that would be unconditional love for every human being. And that's, I think, what God calls us to do. Felucia is self-love. And what's interesting is in all my research on self-compassion, I've never seen the Greek word for it, which was kind of fun to find. So Felucia, the Greek said, Felucia is necessary before you love anyone else. You've got to learn to see your own worthiness, and then you'll see the worthiness in everybody else. And that is the root of all the self-compassion research we have today. They were getting this out of the teachings of Jesus of love others as you love yourself. So that foundational, you have to love yourself if you're going to really love somebody else. Because we're kind of talking out of both sides of our mouth if we say, I love everyone else, but then I criticize myself. Ludus, this is a fun one. Playful, flirtatious. This is the beginning of a relationship when you feel butterflies and all of that, right? We've all felt all of these. Eros is the romantic, intimate lust, that kind of love. And mania, we kind of give the word mania a bad connotation in 2025, but it's actually passion and like, I can't live without you, right? Think of your high school romance or your college romance. It really did feel like I will not exist if you don't love me. So that's that like passion. Remember that feeling? So these are kind of helpful to like tap back into sometimes and just assess like, do I have all these versions of love in my life in an appropriate way? But is there an area I want to grow or focus on or be more intentional about? And what I think that this list kind of gives us is a reminder of the vastness and the power of love. And that just like those moments, here, give me one if you can think of one, where you have been absolutely in awe, like breathtaking, speechless love. Can you think of a moment like that in your own life where there weren't words for it?
Like a new child.
Yeah, new child. Having a baby. Yeah. What else? I'm sure you've had it with a sunset or an ocean or a mountain.
Or sometimes in music.
Music? Yeah. Good. Yeah, like sitting in a symphony. Flowers, the tulips coming up, the buds, in awe of nature. Yeah. So see how that's such a hard thing to describe? Like we know it, we know what each other's talking about, but when you go to put it in words, it's really hard. So I think that I just wanted to context today as we talk about the power of love, to just come back to some foundational types of love and some inventory in our own lives about what am I missing on this list? You know, and I was driving here this morning, I was like the passion piece, like I get so in the weeds of life with stuff and managing everything that I forget to like just be passionate about something, Ginger, right? Just like come alive with something again. So that mania kind of love. I'm watching my daughter and this boy talk to each other, and you know, and so I was like, oh, that's that ludus love. That's that like excitement of did he call or did he text or whatever their words are now. Snap. Yeah. And then that storge, that family bond, that's different, right? That's very different than these other types of love. So just think about all of this and make an intention today, take away something you really want to keep on your radar a little bit more. Any reaction to any of these? Anything striking you?
Well, I think it's fun because we usually are presented with three.
Yes, which three?
Philia, agape, and eros.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, lots of sermons kind of might nod to those, but yeah, there's so much more.
So much more.
There's so much more. Exactly. And to appreciate this is all part of being human. We've tasted all of these, right? Especially with the decades we've all lived. Our grandchildren haven't experienced all of these yet. Our children haven't yet, but we have. Yeah, and then to just celebrate that. Like, how lucky am I that I've had all of this in my life, you know? Celebrate that about yourselves. Because sometimes I think we just start getting caught up in the bad and the lack of love, and we forget the abundance of love. Yeah. Anything else on that? What is somebody taking away to focus on a little bit more? What's one you want to think about or keep on your radar?
Self-love.
Self-love, good. Good. Yeah. Anyone else? Reconnecting with a partner might be good. Finding one might be good. You're looking for some Ludus. Get on Snapchat, apparently. Snap. Okay.
Reliving some of those that
Yeah.
were passed by watching our children.
Yeah, exactly. Isn't that fun? It is fun. It does make you reflect back on that chapter in your own life. And yeah, so great.
I love that there's a word for self-love. Like
Yeah.
when you first said it, I pictured all of them being like outgoing.
Yes, I know.
So,
Isn't that amazing? And there's more writings on this. I'm going to do more research on it, but it was very conclusive that the Greek teachings were that's the foundational one. You really can't do the others if you don't have that. There was a thing I found on you can't have eros, you can't have intimate love if you hate yourself. You can never fully give yourself to somebody else or be in that moment. So it's really interesting to just start thinking about how foundational it is and how we complicate the other stuff because we don't love ourselves or because we don't feel worthy, or we push away love because we can't receive it because we don't feel worthy. Yeah.
Don't you think that's a destination that we don't just arrive at and stay, but we fly in and out?
For sure. Yes.
Sometimes we're in it and have it, and other times it eludes us.
Yes, Pam, exactly. And it's so good to just even take today of like becoming conscious of it again and bringing it back into our lives if it's eluded. And I think seasons of life present these differently too. Yeah. So just keep those on your radar. It's kind of a fun thing to think about. We've talked about this before, but I just want to revisit it in a new way today. This idea that everything comes from love or fear. So everything we say, do, think, we can check in with ourselves of, is this coming from a place of love, or am I afraid of something and so I'm acting accordingly? And I think the more I work with people in this profession and hear people's stories and hear people's interaction, the more I think that the emotions that are harmful, anger, guilt, shame, betrayal, those are not coming from bad people. Those are coming from terrified people, right? Like when we see powerful behavior, that's because that person is afraid they have no power. So I have to prove my power to you. When we see controlling behavior, that's because that person's afraid they don't have control. So I will force control upon you. I will control you. If we can see that's not necessarily a bad person, there's still a loving soul in there, but they're behaving like this because they're afraid of something. And then we can tap into compassion a little bit more for them and understand that this is about their fear. I'm going to choose love. If we see somebody who won't let anyone give them new ideas or new insights, that person's probably terrified of being irrelevant and with age and not knowing things anymore. So I'm going to prove to you I know everything, right? Look at them as scared. They're trying to prove something with their behaviors. We're all just walking around afraid. We're afraid of not being enough. We're afraid of being too much, right? We're afraid of financial ruin. We're afraid if I have money, people won't like me. We're afraid of what people are thinking of us all the time. We're afraid of being alone. Then we're alone, we're panicked, no one likes us, right? And when we're with people, we feel like we don't fit in there either. We're afraid of aging, we're also afraid of dying. So, and it's a reality that we can't stay young forever and our bodies are aging. We're afraid of the unknown, it's all unknown. I mean, the list goes on and on. But if we could start to see that, oh, this is a human terrified, and this is why they're behaving this way. And then figure out, what are they so afraid of? Then I can see them through a lens of, they're so afraid of something and they're doing damage because of it. But it allows me to not just get in angry mode, right? It allows me to stay in compassionate action mode. What's coming to mind? Any of this of like, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm dying to ask you this, and this is
I love it.
probably oversimplifying, but I mean, in a moment, I mean, every day I think we encounter people who maybe snap at you or are unpleasant or something.
Yep.
And it's out of fear.
Yep.
And you can recognize that. Is there something? This is sounding kind of funny, and it's not. I don't mean it to be funny, but is there something you can say to the person that's not psychoanalyzing
I
them,
know.
or making them feel like you're being condescending, but that communicates, oh, you're afraid, and I recognize that you're speaking from fear, but it's okay. Or, I mean, you can't solve their fear in that moment, but is there, what can you do or say in the grocery store line? Or, I mean, I don't know. Is it just a smile and a, I know. Or, I mean, what do you do?
Yeah, so if we go with the grocery store line, I think it is the smile and the beaming compassion, because let's say somebody's snapping and it's because they can't hear, or they can't move fast, or they're slow and they're afraid people are mad at them, right? We could then have compassion for, oh, she's so frustrated with herself right now. And so she's taking it out on people around her. So there's that one. I think you're so right, Laura, about the landmines of psychoanalyzing, right? Of if I step wrong here, it's going to explode. So it could be a situation where I'm going to remove myself from this situation. It could be that I don't deserve to be treated like this. Let's both go cool off for a little bit and come back. And then when you cool off, you could say, you said it beautifully, of I know you're coming at this from something in you is afraid. Can we talk about that? Or you could go first and be like, I'm snapping at you because I'm afraid, right? So my daughter is headed to New York City. We're going Friday, but she's probably going to go to college there. And we've been snappy with each other lately. And last night I was like, we're both freaking out. You're nervous about, can I do this? I'm nervous about, can I do this? Can you do this? All of it. So we got to be extra gentle with each other right now because we're both afraid. So it was a time where I could have that conversation, but I had to admit my own fear too. I couldn't just make this of you're behaving badly because you're afraid.
Oh, okay.
Bring
yourself a little bit into it.
Yeah, we're all
both
afraid.
It's okay.
Yeah.
We're all afraid.
We're all afraid.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. But you make such a good point that it's a tender spot. And so I think the first step is, if we have that lens, then we can lead with compassion and love instead of also getting triggered and angry. Yes. So at least it just keeps our consciousness aware, and then the timing of when you bring that up. But a lot of times, that's the root of so many of our problems. So much of our suffering is what we're afraid of. If you can, I feel like my job sometimes as a coach is just excavating that, we're up here, we think this is the problem, but really, what are we afraid of? And that's gold. When we can name it, and I've noticed 100% of my bad behaviors usually can go back to fear of something. I'm afraid you don't love me. I'm afraid you're leaving me. I'm afraid I'm not good at my job. I'm afraid I'm not whatever, right? So, yeah, beautiful. What else? Were there other hints? Yes, Kim?
I just had a Lenten lesson that defined this a little different. They said to look upon somebody who's obviously struggling as having something inside them that needs to heal.
Yes, I love that.
And then that, on our part, evokes empathy.
Yep,
So
exactly.
I guess just different words for fear and
Yep.
passion.
Exactly. Heal.
Healing, and then we give
Yep.
empathy.
Yeah, you hit a wound. You hit an open wound in that person. You just put salt in their the cut on their hand. And that's why you're getting the explosion. Yeah. So yes, it's and back to Laura's point, sometimes we don't want to come off of patronizing of like, oh, you're healing. No, that's gonna trigger. Right? Not a good thing. We don't want to be told that we need to heal something. But if you can keep that in the back of your mind, like, oh, I just hit an open cut from their childhood. Or I just hit an open cut from something going on in life I don't even know about. Exactly.
Like you being concerned about your daughter going to New York.
Yep. That's an open wound right now. Exactly. So yeah, I'm walking around tender, right? And so I have to remember that. The people I love have to remember that. Exactly. Yep. Beautiful. So another thing with fear and love is love. If you can live in love, our brain actually feels a lot safer neurologically. Love feels safe. Fear feels scary. Our brain's job is 100% of the time to keep this human safe. So the more I am seeing the world through a lens of love, the more my brain settles down. If I start seeing the world through a lens of fear, my brain's going to start sounding the alarms that there is threat all around. So for brain management, we have to kind of remember this stuff. If I want to live scattered and triggered all the time, then I'll put on my fear glasses because that's guaranteed to make me scattered and triggered. If I want to have inner peace and feel calm and settled and grounded and centered, then I'm going to have to put on my love glasses and see that, because I feed how my brain reacts. My thoughts create my reactions. So that is why I think this stuff is just important to keep coming back to. Marianne Williamson, I think I've shared this quote before because it's just so good. Love is what we're born with. Fear is what we learned here. It's such a good call back to our souls, back to that soul. Each one of you has a soul that is pure love and only love. All the other stuff is human. Right? This is our human experience. All the other stuff is human. So if you can just keep going back to, I am a loving soul having a human experience, and this is hard, but the truth is love, that's a constant practice. So when you're thinking about like what kind of love are we talking about here, the kind of love that's like, I trust that things are unfolding. I trust that things are aligning. I trust that even when I can't see it, right, there is good happening. I trust that there's a higher power. I trust that love will win, even if it's really ugly in the meantime. Fear is I isolate, I go within, I'm scared, I play small, I'm not enough, the whole world's crashing. And you can see how if I show up in fear, that shrinking, biting, the whole world's going to get worse to me, right? But if I show up in love of, I don't know how, but it's going to be okay, then I'm projecting that, and then I'm going to receive love from that person too. Yeah. So can you think of, yeah, Susan.
Well, I was having a conversation with my son, and I'm more hopeful than he is.
Mm-hmm.
But he's full of all this love, and he's planting it in his patch.
Yeah.
You know, and as far as he can reach, but there's a sense that beyond that, it's not going to do anything.
Okay.
There's spaces outside of my little
Mm-hmm.
world where all the love I want to give doesn't seem like it's going to change anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think certainly there's fear in there.
Yep.
But also, like, I'm going to choose love, and I'm going to choose to be with people who are going to love me.
Yeah.
And right now, this is like, I'm going to flood it with love.
Yeah.
But
I know.
I don't know how much difference it's going to make in the larger world.
I know, and that's where I go to energy. So I look at the science of energy there, because are we really doing anything by being loving beings? But energetically we are, right? Because energy particles are magnets for good attraction. It's like law of attraction stuff. It's the ask and you shall receive. It's the, all the things, all the karma, the rules of karma, the laws of the universe. So if I am emitting more and more love. That field of love is growing. The next person's field of love is growing, and we literally start to make an energetic impact. I mean, I have to trust that, because exactly what your son is saying, because then it feels like, well, yeah, I'm loving, but nobody else is doing the work, right? Like, that's easy to get in your head of like, why is everyone rude at the grocery store when I'm trying to be an instrument of love here? But we have to trust, the more I emit and that aura or my energy field grows and love grows, love is expansive, fear is constrictive, right? So the more I am literally thinking of an energy field of love around me, then that is a magnet for other energy fields of love. And then I have this vision that if we're all doing that work, literally the love starts connecting and the energy shifts.
Oh, I love that.
I know. But I have to look for hope in that way too. And so science helps me with that kind of stuff. Right? Energy's never deleted or created. We're a closed universe. So the energy we have here will always be the energy we have here, as far as like electrical flow between us. So that means that it is possible to affect that energy. It is possible to shift that energy into love. And I think times like this where humanity is bumpy is an invitation to wake back up to that, because a lot of us got on autopilot. Life's good, you know? I don't have to be this conscious of stuff. And so sometimes when the wheels fall off in our own life, you get a diagnosis, you lose somebody, we all know that's a reset of consciousness, right? It wakes you up every time. Okay, well, humanity is being invited to wake up right now. Across the world, not just in our country, like everywhere. So if humanity, the human species on the planet right now, if we are being called to wake up and I've got to shake you to get your attention, then we can go to these kinds of things and say, okay, maybe we can make a difference. Maybe this is the time where we really, if we're each conscious of our loving energy, we expand it. And I always love the we're in the Midwest, because I have this like picture of like radiating love out, right? Like if Kansas City becomes the most compassionate people in the country, how cool would that be? That we literally start radiating love. If you're God watching the energy map, you know, and you see the energy going, like how cool would that be? So that motivates me to, okay, press on. Let's do it in Kansas City. And then let's see if we can grow it. Yeah, great point from your son. I'm with him. Yeah.
I prefer a much friendlier invitation.
Yeah, I know. But you know what? We don't wake up to that.
No, we don't.
I mean, think about your personal lives. When it's easy, we take it all for granted. Just think about your faith life. When you're cruising, are you as desperate for God? No. You're desperate for God when you're down on your knees, laid out on the bathroom floor. Right? It's no different. I mean, it's just part of being human. It's how we get the message, sadly. You'd think we would learn and get it, but we don't. So we get to be here as a big human experiment. Okay, I wanted to context this because these words get thrown around a lot on our social media and in our conversations, but like, what do they really mean? So pity, sympathy, empathy, and compassion. And the way I mapped them was just like engagement, like think of action, taking action, and effort, like, am I gonna just think about you, or am I actually gonna take some action and help you? So pity would be least engagement, least effort. And pity is like, I know you're in pain. I know things are bad over there. But it also sounds like I feel sorry for you. Seeing your struggle wakes me up to struggle in the world, but I'm sort of glad it's you and not me. Right? We feel that a lot in pity. Like, oh, bad things are happening to them, but there's this part of us, it's our ego, that's like, phew, glad it's not me. Okay, that's more the pity lane. Then if you want to engage in somebody's pain a little bit more or care a little bit more, you move into sympathy. And sympathy is, I now care that you're hurting. And sympathy is, I feel it deeper. So think about like just the term sympathy cards, the section at Hallmark, right? Sympathy is, I'm starting to engage. I'm going to send you this card Pity was, I didn't even go into the Hallmark store. I just knew you were hurting, and I was kind of glad.
Talk to your friends about it.
And I talked to your friend, I gossip about you, exactly. Exactly, that's so true. Yeah, exactly. So sympathy would be, I'm starting to get a little more engaged in this. I'm feeling it a little bit deeper. Empathy, most of you are empathetic in this room. You start feeling their pain. You're actually like carrying it. It feels heavy to think about that person suffering. And that is you putting, empathy is you putting yourself in their shoes. Empathy is also, I know what that's like. I've done that. I know what she's going through. Right? Empathy is you are starting to really align with the depth of what they're experiencing. And then compassion is, I want to bring you comfort. I want to do something. So compassion is suffering with in Latin. So the calm is with, and the passion is suffering, like the Passion of Christ, right? So compassion in Latin is, I will suffer with you. The difference on this chart with compassion versus empathy is, I will take active action to bring you comfort. So this is where we show up with meals. This is where we sit and hold your hand. This is where I sit through chemotherapy with you, right? These are I will show up and I will suffer with you. That's compassion. And so compassion is what really moves the needle for humanity. Right? The more we are really engaging and showing up for each other, the more we really do that ripple effect that we were just talking about of energy. But we're all exhausted, busy, dealing with our own problems. And so we start sliding back down the scale of, I just can't. I'm sorry, you're going through that, but I can't. And that we have called compassion fatigue. I don't believe in compassion fatigue, and it's starting to get debunked now. But when it first came out, I actually like the term. I was like, you don't really have compassion fatigue if you have self-compassion. So when I talk to like medical communities or groups of residents, I'll talk a lot about this. Like, yeah, you're on the front lines pouring it out, but you won't burn out if you're also showing your self-compassion. If you're also saying, Ginger, that was a hard one. Okay, what do you need before you go to the next bed? Right? Those are the acts of self-compassion that can sustain a very compassionate person. So when you feel like compassion fatigue is coming in on your radar, that means you need self-compassion. That's this early sign of burnout. And burnout is, I got nothing left to give for myself or anybody else. And many of us have tasted that before. You run yourself into the ground and there's nothing left. But that is more of a warning sign or a barometer that I need to practice self-compassion. And I have to check in with this all the time on myself. Like those that work with me know, like I go 1,000,000 miles an hour and then I hit a wall and I'm ready to throw it all away. Well, what happened was there was no compassion for myself. There was no care for myself. And so I feel like I will learn someday how to see it earlier, but not yet. This winter was rough. But now I'm like, okay, so Ginger, what do you need? You neglected everything that you needed. And that is not selfish. That is so that I can be a compassionate person in the world. Feel that reframe? Yeah, that's an important reframe. But I'm still learning it with you. What comes to mind when you think about a compassionate thing somebody's done for you? When did you really receive compassion from somebody else? Yeah.
So, what we were talking earlier about the email exchange with my sister.
Yeah.
Ongoing issues. I sent my best friend a picture, a screenshot of that exchange, and I kid you not, within 10 seconds, and she never cold FaceTimes me. She FaceTimes me and just validates me. And
Amazing.
She's like, that was utter BS.
Yeah. She's on Team Lisa. Exactly.
Yes, so
Good.
Just validating, being there for me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Perfect example. And that action element of FaceTiming with you,
Yeah.
right? She engaged fully. Like she's off the charts on engagement,
Yes.
right? I'm not just thinking of Lisa, praying for Lisa, sending Lisa an email. I'm hitting FaceTime within 10 seconds and I'm there for her.
Yes.
great example. Great example.
Ginger, this is really interesting because I work at Wayside Waves, the animal shelter, and we have a program through our animal shelter called No More Bullying. And so essentially we have 4 humane educators that go into classrooms, 3rd through 5th grade. They teach 4 to 5 core concepts, and if children have those core values, then they won't be likely to bully or hurt another person and have respect for themselves. So yesterday, I shadow several times a year in this program, and I shadowed yesterday.
Okay.
And they were teaching on the concept of compassion.
Okay, cool.
And so the first topic they went through was responsibility is something that you have in your toolkit, because if you're a responsible person, then you'll feel better about yourself and you won't hurt somebody else. The next one is compassion. And the teacher, the humane educator, to get the kids to remember what compassion is, they always do weird voices and hand movements and things like that. And it literally came into my mind when you said compassion today. And what they did is knowing someone is suffering and doing something about it. And so literally I remember being
That's so cool.
You can't just know it.
Right.
You actually have to move and help them.
That's it.
So they had all the kids get up and say it in different funny voices and like knowing someone's suffering and doing something about it. And this was a 4th grade class, and then they would go through it. She went through some examples of how, if someone walks in and they're really sad, you know that they're sad, but what would you do about it? And so all the kids participated.
Perfect.
And then they brought in the companion dogs there, and they talked, how would you show compassion to this animal? How, what if an animal is being abused by somebody, or being hit? What would you do about it? Talk to a trusted adult. That kind of thing. So,
Anna, that's perfect.
But it's cool that we're going and trying to teach this to
Yes.
these younger generations so that they have more respect and they don't end up.
Right. What a beautiful way to teach that. Oh my gosh, Wayside Waves gets all our money right now. Yes. That is so awesome that they take the dogs in to teach compassion to 4th graders.
We're in 28 schools this year. So we've been doing this since the early 2000s.
That is so cool.
And most of the schools are below the poverty line that we go into.
Yep.
But,
Yes. Oh, that's such a great, I love that. I'm going to add that into my thinking on compassion. Like, I know it, do it.
28 cities that were
That's
actually,
so
other
cool.
shelters are purchasing it from us so they can teach it.
Ah.
Yeah.
And the love for animals. Yes, there you go. Spreading the love out. That's right. Oh, that's beautiful. That is such a good, I love the visual of I know it, now I'm going to do something about it. Yeah, that's.
It's like I remember doing.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Exactly, because that is compassion. It's the action element that makes compassion different from these other things. Yep, that I will bring you comfort. And so then if we go to the self-compassion teachings of I'm hurting, I'm not the only one hurting. I'm not alone on the planet. There's a woman in Africa, there's a woman in France feeling just like I do right now. What do I need for comfort? Right? That's the self-compassion. The compassion for you is I see you hurting. I know what that's like because I've hurt too. What can I do to bring you comfort? Exactly. Beautiful. It's the doing. Yeah. And I want to relieve your suffering. I want to help. Yeah.
So on the action, the effort engagement piece of this, reminds me of a lesson I taught one time right around luck and blessing over St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, cool.
And it talked about, lots of people like to say I'm blessed.
Yep.
But really, blessings come when you take what you have and give it to somebody else.
Yeah.
That is what makes it a blessing.
That's beautiful.
So it really has everything to do
Exactly.
with the outward action.
Yes, I love that. Yes, that's so good because the action of giving is really when we feel the blessing for what we have been given. Yeah, that's a great way to look at that. Yep, that sharing of it. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Well, with that, this is the ultimate compassion. My friend giving me a kidney.
Oh, Cheryl.
That's
That is the
it doesn't get
ultimate.
any better than that.
That is right.
That's some doing.
That's some doing. You win. You win. Yeah. Your friend wins, yes. That's amazing.
And my brother had also given me a kidney.
Oh my
so
gosh.
Talk about blessings.
Yeah. Wow, Cheryl. Yeah, the recipient of so much compassion. And the fact that they matched and like just all of that layers of love there.
I also knew of a 6-year-old who needed a kidney, and I heard so many people say to the family, "We're praying for you, we're praying for you," and I'm thinking, they need
Yeah.
more than prayers. Get
Yeah.
tested.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly.
Take it from that empathy piece, which is a huge leap.
Yep. Yep. And that's where Christians get it wrong sometimes, is we say we're praying for you. But one, are you actually? Like, are you really, really praying? Or is it just a little nice thing to text? So calling ourselves out on that, like if I say I'm going to pray for you, I'm actually going to pray for you. And then we stop there. And it can be beautiful if your faith is such that God will take action. I'm asking God to take action for you. That can be a good faith. But it's also a bit of a cop-out if I'm not willing to take action and sacrifice and give up my kidney or my time or be uncomfortable, right? That's huge. I mean, that's really where I think we all need to test ourselves a little bit and call ourselves out on our own BS. Because here's why also that is life-giving for you. If you're saying these things but not really doing them, it erodes your self-esteem. You're actually diminishing the goodness you could feel about yourself. You're not proud of yourself. You know what you're doing. You just texted, "I'm praying for you," but I didn't really. And that then diminishes you. And then you go into the grocery store angry. You're really angry at yourself, but now I'm starting to take it out on everyone around me. Right, so it's a good cleanup device to actually walk your talk. It will serve you well to either don't say it if you're not going to do it, or say it, get tested, give the kidney, and be proud of yourself for that compassionate act. Now your energy field just expanded. You're more radiating love in the world. You're not shrinking, and so you see that like. The reason this stuff is important is twofold. Not just what we're doing for the other person, but also what it does within you. Yeah, exactly.
I see that now as an ice cream cone. I see most of the world as ice cream.
Oh, I love that.
Full disclosure.
I want those glasses.
I have a lens
Yes.
of ice cream at all times. I just want to put
That feels
out
like
there.
love.
I'm liking this talk.
I know.
Any flavor, I don't care. But that's like the first 3 to me.
Yeah.
Seem like I would call it like a cone of thoughts and prayers, or almost that, like you're saying, that sort of empty shell of I'll pray for you, and then you don't. But then there's a real difference for me between empathy and compassion because of the doing.
Yep,
action.
exactly.
That's the good stuff that really, really matters.
Exactly.
What's on the
Yeah.
adds to you, literally, but
Yes.
Chocolate sauce.
yeah.
Yeah.
That, I mean,
Perfect.
I really see. I was thinking there's almost a line there, but
Yeah.
they're 2 different pieces entirely. Those first 3 seem to go together, and then that
Yep. That's beautiful.
last piece is the big, wonderful bit. You really.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. I love it.
It's like the very hungry caterpillar. It also looks like that.
You guys are such visual people. I love it. Your brains are so full of imagination. I love it. That's how we solve problems, is those imaginations. So think of it just leaving here today of like, I'm feeling all this. Where can I take action? What can I do to help somebody suffer less? What can I do to put my love in action? I think that's really where you feel empowered. Like, I am doing something. So I'm not a victim to the things anymore. I'm not a victim to the sadness. I'm actually going to contribute to love. I'm going to contribute to the love. And because we're all maxed out and exhausted, what do I need to be able to do that? Right? So tend to that first. Go back to that of like, for me to be the compassionate instrument in the world, I have to be overflowing with love to pour it out. And if you're not there right now, then that's the first step. Right?
So I just started because I'd been wrapped in my own little world with everything going on with the job situation. and
Lisa works for the federal government.
And it's real fun right now.
Oh, Lord,
Still.
You made it?
Yeah, next week will be my 30 years.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah, so to kind of get out of that and recognizing that, especially through Compassion Fix, thank God for the women's group, because I'm branching out and meeting new people and forming new friendships. I had to start having a notebook to, okay, what is this person going through right now, so that I could remember
Yeah.
and really actively thank and
Good.
check on them for that.
Yes.
Because I get so wrapped up with
Yeah.
all the drama that's already going on with this other stuff. How can I give back and not keep, I don't want to keep taking from people. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Beautiful. Also allow yourself to be in a season where you might take more than you give right now. And then you can shift that later. You can make up for that later, right? But that's a beautiful intention of, I'm going to write down somebody's name and what they're going through just to keep my consciousness focused on other people. And I told somebody that was super hopeless earlier this week, like, go do something kind for somebody else. Right? And their list was, I'm going to buy the person coffee. I'm going to hold the door for everyone I see. I'm going to return shopping cart. She had a good list of like how I'm going to help. And it was all just her daily stuff that she could do. But she's rising in that consciousness like you are. I'm in the weeds. How do I pull out of this? And that's a beautiful practice. Beautiful. And it's caring about somebody else, serving somebody else, almost always will lighten your depression.
Yes.
Yep.
Ginger, what I've also come to, going through this conversation, I was raised by a mother who was scared of everything.
Yep.
You know, scared
Yeah.
of disease, scared of, like, she would send me in my car with like a full case of water, like sleeping bags, like hazard lights, like even if I was going to school, like I was like constantly prepared for like a
Yep.
disaster. And I've realized now that I'm like starting in my 40s, actually, I mean, it took me a long time. I just need to like protect myself in a bubble, which
Yep.
is like a good visual. And then anytime my mom would come in with her fears, be like,
Good.
I don't need.
They bounce off.
And I limit my conversation with her in regards to those topics. Like we stay on very neutral topics,
Yes.
but I know she won't go deep dive into her fear.
Yep.
And I'm
Beautiful.
so much calmer.
Beautiful.
Like, I don't have that fear constantly. Like I'm constantly,
I
on
know.
edge.
Well, because you're an empath, you take on. Oops, sorry. Did I do something?
We lost the ice cream cone.
Because you're an empath, you literally absorb her fear without that bubble.
And it's your mom. Too.
And it's your mom.
It's the fact that you take and you trust what they're telling you.
And you grew up with that, so it's extra conditioned, right?
Yes.
Before you even knew, oh, this is her fear, not mine, you were swimming in fear.
Yeah, everything was scary.
Yes.
Leaving my front door was something was going to happen.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, that's beautiful that you're so aware of it as an adult and you can reprogram your brain. You're doing the work of reprogramming your brain. That's no small feat. And you're doing it with practices like the bubble of like, I'm not going to absorb her fear, right? I am safe. I trust that I can get to school safely. I will take care of Anna. Like you're doing that work. That's how you reprogram your brain. It's beautiful.
So I help just limit who, if you know somebody stresses you out and it causes fear, limit, that was my thought in general. Like to have more love, is just limit your exposure to them. Yeah,
minimize exposure is like a phrase I'm saying every day right now. Whether it's to the news or to somebody that hurts you, or I catch myself like almost every conversation there's an application for minimize your exposure, because it is empaths, like you wouldn't come to something like this if you weren't an empathic, compassionate person. You're already hardwired that way. So you're the ones that have to be extra careful about minimizing exposure to certain things.
But also maximize exposure to, again,
Love.
the buds out
And
the
this,
trees, the
yes.
sunshine, this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Good. Very good. Yeah. Minimize fearful things. Maximize love.
And it's harder.
It is.
Right now than
Exactly.
it ever has been.
Yeah.
So you have to work harder at it.
Yeah, we do. But that's kind of the invitation that we're all waking up, right?
Yeah.
It's like building muscles that we let atrophy a little bit. Yeah. So the last thing for today is this practice of no agenda but love. This has been helping me in my personal life, so I wanted to share it with you just to get it on your radar today. So here, I have 3 places you can practice this: with yourself, with other people, with God. With yourself, when you look in the mirror, I have no agenda with you, Ginger, but love. I'm not looking at the flaws. I'm not looking at what needs to be changed. I'm not looking at that. I am going to love you when I see you in the mirror. So no agenda but love for yourself. Okay? And these things take practice. I'm going to look at my day with no agenda but love for being alive today. I'm just so grateful I get to live today and encounter loving people at Village Presbyterian this morning. Right? No agenda but love. I don't have to prove anything. I don't have to be smart. I don't have to be awesome. I'm just going to be love in that room. Right? That takes off all the fear. And then like even things like your things you criticize, your house. Like, I wish I had this. Walk into your house with no agenda but love. See how it feels. No agenda but love for this house and the people that live here and all of our stuff. Right? What if I just had no agenda but love throughout my day with myself and the things I criticize about myself or my existence? With other people, this one's harder. Well, for each of us, who knows which one's harder, but with like no agenda but love, it can change your partnerships, your spouses, your relationships. If I see my husband with no agenda but love, what is that like, right? That would transform all the little things that we get hung up on or trying to change about somebody, right? No agenda but love for you. The difficult family member, no agenda but love. And you also I'm also all about minimizing exposure. You're more likely to see them with no agenda but love if you've minimized exposure. But if I could put down all the suitcases of baggage I carry into this relationship, and all of my fears and all of your fears, if we could just sit with no agenda but love, what would that be like? Whether it can happen in reality or not, imagine it. Because just that gets the right neurotransmitters released in your brain, the oxytocin, the dopamine, the serotonin. And then different views, different religions, different life experiences. If I just see them with no agenda but love. I had a client who was judging the decisions of her daughter about her granddaughter. So bad mother, right? Kind of syndrome. If she could just see this whole story with no agenda but love, and that granddaughter's going to turn out great, right? It transformed it. But because she was so focused on her daughter, and they happen to be living in the same house right now, so it makes it extra complicated. But she's seeing her daughter not parent well day in and day out, 24/7. I mean, most grandparents don't see that. So part of it is you are so exposed, you have to kind of forget, oh wait, normally a grandparent wouldn't see all this stuff, right? The bedtime routine, so she's working on it and texted me of like, okay, I can do this because the fear had taken over. So just think about it. You don't actually have to do it because people are super triggering right now. So it's easier to imagine it than do it in the moment in their presence. But take some time to imagine it before you see that person. What would this be like? And if it's not well received, then you protect yourself, right? But at least you know you're trying to be the love in the room. And then with God, what if you approached God with no agenda but love? God, I don't need you to fix anything. I don't need you to send anything. I don't need you to change anything. I just want to sit here in the presence of your love and feel your love for me. Right? That changes your prayer life. That's what the mystics teach, the Christian mystics. That's one of the reasons I'm so passionate about them, because it's a game changer. If you can go to God with no agenda but love, I'm not trying to get you to push buttons and fix things.
So how does that shape prayer then? Prayer is my star word for this year.
Okay.
So it's
Perfect.
in front of my mind a lot of times.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, I just need to, the default is I need to ask for more things.
Yeah.
So how do you
Do the opposite.
You're saying the opposite, really, yeah.
Sit in silence with God, no words.
I love that.
and a way to imagine it, because sometimes if we're used to words, it's hard. We have to baby step, right? These things. So sit in the sun right now, because you can viscerally feel it. And just imagine that's God's love beaming on you, and I am just going to experience God's love. No words.
That's prayer.
Yeah, that's prayer. That's transformative prayer.
Yeah.
That's actually where the magic happens. Because the words are our head, not our soul, not our heart, right? The words are Ginger trying to control things so she feels safe. That's my brain being super busy. Okay, so if I can turn that off, I think of it as an elevator. Like my morning meditation, I literally get on the elevator up here and I ride it down until we get to the soul. Okay, now we're gonna go spend time with God from that place. Yeah. I like imagery too. But I live on the top floor all the time. Right? My brain is so over busy, and I wish it wasn't. So I have to do these visual practices to come down to my heart, my soul. And that's where I connect to God. That's where I start the prayer. And then you can be silent when you're down there.
Last night
Yeah.
I was at a concert, and a couple that lives near us said something about we've been working out in the yard. We have been.
Uh-huh.
And he said he just hated that. And I said, it's good for my soul.
Yes.
And that is the place where I can go. I'm not thinking, I'm just,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yes.
That's a good place for me to get it anyway.
Exactly. Oh, nature is so perfect, Diane. And the physical labor, the movement is also very good, because you're literally thinking about what am I grabbing and not falling and all that stuff, and I'm not doing the looping of whatever I'm worried about. Perfect. Yeah. These are the practices that we have to bring into our life and be intentional about. Where do I feel a connection to my soul? Okay, more of that. Right.
So winter really is awful.
Winter is awful.
Yes.
I mean, we are literally coming back to life. Yeah.
Winter's a good time to let the music in.
Yeah. Yep. Beautiful.
I play piano for some of my solace, and so winter's a great, because that instrument's in a warm place.
Good.
He's sitting there waiting for me.
Perfect.
And exploring things, so.
Perfect. Let the music
There's a
in.
good book by Ginger Rothhaas.
Yes, I do like that book. I didn't bring any today. I will do that. I'll do that. We're going to see each other in 2 weeks, or whatever the math is. April. We'll be back the 1st of April, so I will bring books. So what's coming to mind for you guys that you could approach with no agenda but love? You don't have to pick a hard one. Pick an easy one. What could you do today where you could walk in with no agenda but love? Kids? Excellent. I'm not trying to make you something I want you to be. I'm not trying to control your decisions. Good.
My husband.
Lisa, good.
He's getting ready to retire, and I'm fearful for what the next one is.
Exactly. Exactly.
What's he gonna do to occupy his time?
Yep.
24/7, but
Yes.
he was occupied before, so.
Seeing him, that's great, Lisa. Seeing him with no agenda but love instead of all the what ifs.
Awesome, I just love it.
Perfect. It does. It really does change, especially roommates, the people you live with, right? Because oftentimes we have an agenda with them. Like, don't put your stuff there, or clean this up, or you didn't get to that project I wanted you to do. We have agendas with people we love a lot. Or we live with. So it's very good to practice it with the people you live with first. That's a very good starting point. Because he's also afraid of all those questions.
I agree.
Right? He's like, what am I going to do? Am I going to be okay? I don't know if I can do this. And
Me putting pressure on
exactly. So what a gift. If Lisa is just the love in the room and his safe space, because he's already worried about all that stuff. Yeah. Beautiful. So beautiful.
need to be more compassionate.
Yeah. I mean, same thing with our teenagers, right? They are already mad at themselves for whatever the thing is we're about to lecture them on. So, right? So they really, if they know they messed up. So if we could then come in with love, oh, what a beautiful thing. Instead, we enrage them, and the lesson gets missed in the process. Or we compound the fear and then they behave badly to deal with that. Yeah, you know the spiral. Yeah.
When you said that, said the statement, I saw this door at our clubhouse open with these hundreds of women, not hundreds, several 50 women
Yeah.
in there that have lived totally different lives.
Okay.
And they don't get along.
Okay.
And I try to do that, but it's now in my mind just to walk in there with love.
Perfect. No agenda but love.
Yes.
Good.
I've never seen anything like it.
So the place you live, the clubhouse is full of people that.
And everybody's lived their life and they have different personalities.
Yeah.
And so let's just love each other.
Yeah.
We're getting old. It's not hard.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's the shared human experience is a very good tool, MJ, that you just brought up of like, why are we fighting each other, right? We have limited time on this planet and it stresses me out that you're all fighting. Right. So like, what if we could all just love each other and do life together?
It would be wonderful.
It would be so wonderful. Yep. And it starts with you. You could do that today. See how it goes.
It's funny when you said that. I just saw.
You could picture it.
Oh my goodness.
Be the love in the room. Yeah. Be the love in the room and see what happens. Yeah. Yeah. Any other applications of no agenda but love? Thank you all for being here today. Yes, Brooke.
Yeah, can I just a couple of reminders? One thing is Susan has a little group that meets on the off. So we typically meet on the first Wednesday, and then a group meets on the third Wednesday. This particular month, you guys are not going to meet next week because it's spring break, right? Right. So it'll be the following week. What's that date? Do you know? Wednesday.
25th.
Yeah, 25th?
I think that's right.
Right here. So it's that they just kind of take time to unpack some of the stuff that Ginger's talked about, as well as other stuff going on in life, and it's a very sweet group if you have time for that.
That's perfect. Yes, that's so perfect.
Also, Michelle would love anybody who would like to be a part of a group picture. She's just telling people about Ginger on Village's social media. So if you're up for being in a big group picture, great. If you're not, absolutely no problem, but Michelle's going to take a big group.
And I want to do 2 shout outs since you all know and love Brooke Brundage. She's got a couple things. Compassion Fix is her quarter time gig. And so she's got a monthly art group. Or art class. It's the first Thursday of each month, and Diane just participated in Maryland in painting birds.
And it was so much fun. It was a good time. And I don't even like her. There was like parade.
Yes. Exactly. And they're coming back.
Yes, so I highly recommend it.
Brooke,
I didn't think I would.
I smiled all the way home.
Yeah, that is amazing. So Brooke is a former art teacher, and she is bringing art to Compassion Fix in such a fun, easy way, making it so accessible. And she also has another class coming up. So April 3rd, she is working on quieting our brains through art and finding calm through art. So that's April 3rd. And then April 17th, she has a class that we love the title of, Dear God, What, or WTF. I almost said it. Sorry, video. I saved it if you're listening to this while driving with children. I didn't say it. So that class
Thursday, Friday.
is April 17th, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, WTF. April 17th. So that, and Brooke is going to lead that. Brooke has had so much to overcome of adversity and challenges being thrown at her in life. She's got street cred in this topic. She managed to grow her faith despite all of the stuff. So she's going to speak to that and help other people say, Dear God, WTF. So it's going to be a very, very good class. You can find all that on compassionfix.com.
Thank you.
Yes.
Also, tomorrow, spiritual practices and why they matter and
yes.
all that. And my own daughter is teaching that, so
Yes.
I encourage you to go.
Yes, I'm going to say that for the video too. So tomorrow morning and then March 27th and April 10th, all at 10 a.m., a 3-part series. Kate Unruh, who has a PhD from Princeton Seminary, who is super, super wise and amazing, is doing a Lenten series, Spiritual Practices and Why They Matter. And so she's teaching spiritual practices and going deeper with your spiritual practices. So those are also happening. And we have a meal prep class coming up. And then April 10th, I'll see you before then, we're going to do a free event, grand opening of our new space. So come to that too. All right. Thank you, everyone.